The Lost Paradise, the Maturity of the Spirit and the Awakening of Consciousness. Kardec explains that the paradise described in Genesis was not a geographical place, but a state of the soul. It represents the initial phase of humanity, when man lived under the tutelage of instincts and spiritual forces that guided him directly. During this period, the young spirit did not possess full moral freedom. It lived in unconscious harmony with divine laws, like a child guided by a paternal hand. This is the condition of the man before the fall. The fall was not a punishment imposed by God, but the awakening of consciousness and free will. When man began to distinguish good from evil, he acquired responsibility for his choices. It was at this moment that the human soul left the happy ignorance paradise to enter the school of progress, where pain and experience replace innocence as teachers of learning. The original sin, teaches Kardec, is not an inherited guilt, but the natural tendency of the imperfect spirit to learn through its own mistakes. Modern psychology confirms this view in different language. The development of consciousness goes through phases similar to the spiritual evolution described by Kardec. Humanity's childhood, paradise, was marked by instinctive obedience to higher forces. Spiritual adolescence, the fall, brought the desire for autonomy, the impulse to experiment, err, and discover. The expulsion from Eden is thus the birth of freedom. Biology and anthropology demonstrate that as the human brain developed, the capacity for judgment, memory, and imagination expanded. The prehistoric man, once submissive to natural laws, became aware of himself and began to transform the world around him. This cognitive leap corresponds, in spiritual terms, to the transition from the symbolic paradise to the era of reason and moral responsibility. God did not punish him. He simply left him free to learn from the consequences of his own actions. Quantum physics and the philosophy of consciousness reinforce this idea of creative freedom. The observer influences reality. Thought shapes the universe. When man becomes aware of himself, he becomes a co-creator of reality. The fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil symbolizes the spirit's entry into co-authorship of universal destiny. The possibility to choose and therefore to evolve. Kardec teaches that work, pain, and effort are the instruments of redemption. In the symbolic paradise, everything was given. Outside of it, everything must be conquered. But it is precisely this effort that strengthens the will and awakens love. Suffering, when accepted with wisdom, purifies the spirit and restores it to lost harmony. The true return to paradise occurs when the soul, after long experiences, consciously re-encounters the purity it once possessed instinctively. Moral neuroscience identifies this process as the maturation of the prefrontal cortex, the seat of ethical discernment and empathy. The spiritual history of man reflects his own neuroevolution. The brain develops to support the spirit in its moral achievements. Biological evolution and spiritual evolution walk together, revealing the divine plan inscribed both in matter and consciousness. Kardec shows that the angel with the sword of fire, placed at the gate of Eden, represents the law of cause and effect, which prevents a return to innocence without learning. The soul only re-encounters paradise when it purifies itself through experience and virtue. The path back involves reparation, love, and wisdom, not through denial of life, but through its full understanding. Spiritualism, by illuminating the hidden meaning of the myth, reveals that paradise was never lost. It simply became invisible to the material eyes. It is within each spirit as it learns to love, understand, and serve. Eden is not a place in time, but a state of vibration and inner peace, the final destination of all who walk the path of progress. Thus, the lost paradise is the symbol of humanity's spiritual maturity. It was necessary to fall in order to rise, to know pain, to understand love, to live in ignorance, to value the light. The expulsion from Eden was not the end, but the beginning of the spirit's journey toward perfection. If this reflection brought you understanding and serenity, share it, because understanding the lost paradise is realizing that we were not expelled from divine love. We simply learned to consciously find it again within ourselves.